All right. Well, thank you very much. Kent, are you out there tonight?
I am.
I'm assuming you are.
Yes.
Oh, there you are.
I showed up.
Yeah, what a coincidence. So did I. So it's going to be great. We have a special guest tonight, Gary Zimak. So we'll be talking to him in just a few minutes. Evangelization, consecrating yourself to Mary. It's a 33-day retreat, and about worry. Do you ever worry about anything?
I worry
Come on,
about
you got to have some kind of worry anxiety in you. Come on. Now.
I worry about getting this show up when I do it.
All right, that's the biggest worry there is. Okay, well, the show's up and running. I'll tell you what, we're going to take this break, and we're going to come back. We're going to talk to Gary. Also, we have a phone number now, correct?
Yes, we do.
If somebody wants to call in.
Yep.
Yeah, we do. So we'll be showing that. There it is, 440-536-3650. So this is something brand new to for our show, at least. Yeah. So we have yet to have our first caller. So we'll hopefully get that tonight.
Yeah, that would be great.
All right. We'll be right back.
Hi, it's Ken with the Fiat Ministry Network. Thanks for watching the Joe Miller Unplugged show. Also, we just want to let you all know about how much we enjoy creating new shows for you about different topics of the Catholic faith and also bringing in some great guests. But we also need your support. Any kind of support, prayer, financial would be great. And please check out our donation button right underneath the video player that you're viewing right now. You also could like us on Facebook or also follow us on Twitter. We really appreciate any kind of support that you can give us, and we'll definitely do our best to give you the best Catholic shows every Sunday night on the Joe Miller Unplugged show, right here on the Fiat Ministry Network, encouraging all to say yes to Jesus Christ. And you're back.
All right. Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Ken. We've got to start off with prayer as always, and I really feel this need and this desire to pray tonight. So I need the graces of God, and the Holy Spirit and everything. So let's do that, and then we'll get right to our guest here. In the name of Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. God the Father, Lord Jesus Christ, Holy Spirit, Holy Trinity, be with us tonight. We ask also for Blessed Virgin Mary, be with us here tonight as well, as we'll be consecrating ourselves a little bit to her. But, Lord, every day is an adventure. We can't survive without you. And just coming to that realization that, we need you every day of our lives is just so important. So we ask for your blessings on Fiat Ministry and everybody listening and watching tonight and being a part of this show. And send your graces down upon us and our host. And we also ask for special intercessory help from Bishop Fulton Sheen in heaven, who is watching over Fiat Ministry. And we have asked him to do that, and he's taken us up on the challenge. He's been doing a great job. So we ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen. In the name of Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Gary, you're there. How are you doing tonight?
I am doing good, my brother. How about yourself?
Okay, fantastic. Coming all the way from New Jersey tonight. And really, you got a fascinating story. So this is going to be a very interesting show here tonight. Just let me give a little background information about you here. Okay, it says that 2008, you were working as a project analyst. And then you felt this call from the Lord, and you formed Following the Truth, an apostle dedicated to teaching truths to the Catholic faith. You started off doing that part-time, and now you are doing it full-time as a Catholic lay evangelist. You do radio, writing, social media, live talks. You have communication skills. You work for the Lord in His church in that capacity. You've been on EWTN, Relevant Radio, Ave Maria, Crest in the Afternoon, Sirius Radio's Seize the Day with Gus Lloyd, and other Catholic radio shows. And then you have 3 books you wrote. This is the Warrior's Guide, a Warrior's Guide to the Bible. And then you have Listen to Your Blessed Mother. And your latest book, I believe, is From Fear to Faith.
That's right.
And you reside again in New Jersey, and your wife is Eileen. You have twin daughters, huh?
That's right.
Excellent. So, very good. Now, I've got a question for you right off the bat, and just fire away with it. You sort of changed careers.
Yeah, I'll say.
And that's always a scary thing.
Amen.
Oh my gosh, a lot of people are like, what? Nah.
You're getting me scared just talking about it, Joe.
Absolutely. So I want to hear about that.
Yeah.
I'm very intrigued about this. You jumped over to another career to serve the Lord.
Yeah.
And why don't you give us some background on that leap of faith?
You bet. And, you know, it's so funny just to listen to you talk about the fact that I'm a full-time Catholic evangelist. I still can't believe it. It's been close to 3 years now. You know, I'm a cradle Catholic. I was incredibly lukewarm for most of my life. And it's so funny. I went to Mass every Sunday. I was too afraid and too lazy to even fall away. I mean, you talk about lazy, you talk about lukewarm. I was a coward. I was somebody who thought, all right, Catholics go to Mass every Sunday, and that's all we do. And that's literally all I did up until late 2004. And then the fact that I'm a hypochondriac is pretty interesting. And I'm someone, and we'll talk about anxiety, I'm someone who has always been prone to anxiety, especially worrying about my health. So what happened was the Lord was trying to get my attention. So what did he do? He gave me a mystery illness. And this happened in late 2004. I thought I was going to die. Doctors didn't know what was wrong with me. Lost a lot of weight, felt sick. The first thing I did was say, all right, if I'm dying, and this was as the tests were going on, I said, if I'm dying, I better start taking my faith seriously, because I knew that I wasn't doing a good job. And you know, Joe, we're all going to be judged one day. And that's what I was worried about. I thought, I'm a lousy Catholic. And I started to study. I started to really try to finally learn about my faith. And in spite of 12 years of Catholic schooling, I didn't know anything. And I really take the blame for that, because I just didn't care. But I started to care, and I started to care in a hurry. I started listening to Catholic radio. I started to pray, never envisioning that I would ever be working as an evangelist. It was never part of the plan. But as you know, right, the Lord has other plans.
Lord always has other plans. You know, not to interrupt you here, Gary, but our guest last week had a very similar situation where he was facing life or death. He had leukemia, the fourth stages, and you know, it was John Littleton. Maybe you know him.
I know.
Yeah. So it was a very similar story. He was brought to the brink of death. And then, you know, that's what, after that incident, he went full tilt for the Lord. So, but go ahead. Go ahead.
And the difference between myself and Jim Littleton is that I never was really diagnosed with anything. And they never could find out any disease that I had. But the doctors were worried. And as, you know, sometimes as it works out, the more tests they do, the more possibilities they start coming up with. And all the while, as they would come up with more possibilities and things they would find, I was panicking. But at the same time, here's the cool thing. I was feeling peace, because I was finally getting that relationship going with the Lord. I finally knew that I could meet Jesus as a person, to know him as a person. And previously, I thought it was for Protestants. That personal relationship with Christ, Catholics don't do that, right? We receive him every week, but we don't do that. But I started to know our Lord personally, finally. And that peace started to come about. And what happened was, the more I learned about the faith, the more I wanted to start sharing it with others. In the meantime, the symptoms went away. Doctors never came up with a diagnosis. But suddenly, I was on fire for the Lord. And I created my website, followingthetruth.com. And here's the funny thing. It was supposed to be part-time. It was supposed to be promoting other people's resources, good books, good videos, good recordings. Little by little, I started writing. And I started having this desire to get out there and spread the good news. Now, here's the funny thing also. I mean, this is just, as I tell this story, it's so crazy. I'm basically an introvert. I've always been afraid of public speaking. And that's all I do now. Public speaking, radio, doing some TV. But this call, when the Lord calls you, sometimes you don't even know the gifts that you have. And that's what I'm learning. I had this desire to get out there little by little and start spreading the good news. But again, I expected to do it on a part-time basis. Never thought that I would do this full-time, because I'm a comfort-loving guy, Joe. I like to get a paycheck every other week. And
I got you.
I'm being totally honest. That's my nature.
That's the way everybody is. But, you know, it takes a supernatural inkling, grace, or whatever to do what you did. But you did start off, I think you said part-time. So
absolutely. Yeah. Didn't worry about making money.
And so then just finally, at one point you said, I've got to do this full-time, and you just went with it, and you quit your job.
Not exactly. And again, the Lord intervened. I got laid off, which is incredible, because I felt this call to do it full-time. But I would talk to my spiritual director, and I would pray, and I have a family to support. And I realized that I just couldn't quit, even though I felt the call to do it. We're going to talk about total consecration later. And when we get to that, I'll talk about the fact that when I made my total consecration to Jesus through Mary, that's when I finally accepted the job that I absolutely couldn't stand. A month later, I got laid off. And I really think our Blessed Mother was helping me to accept God's will for my life, even though I didn't want it, before she would release me to do the work for him full time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because it's going to take something like getting laid off to do it. I don't think you're ever going to have the guts, so to speak, to just quit. And here's another question I have for you along those same lines, and now you're talking about in faith a lot. I've been listening to some of your talks in that, but where's the line? Where do we draw the line between, stepping out in faith and just doing something really radically stupid?
Yeah, good. That's
how do you draw that? How do you come up with that?
You know, Joe, my next book, which is coming out next year, is a book that came out of so many people asking me questions about how do you know? How do I know God's will for my life? My next book is coming out next year. It's called Faith, Hope, and Clarity, How to Know God's Will. And in that book, I tell that there's several steps that we can apply. I think the first one that we have to remember is common sense. God gives us intelligence. And in my case, I'm a husband, I'm a father. I'm the provider for my family. It would have been irresponsible for me to step out with absolutely no way to make an income. And at the time when I was doing my work part-time, I never sought out speaking engagements. I wasn't making any money. So I had no way to make a living. But when the layoff came, again, this wasn't my doing, this was the Lord's doing. He gave me the kick in the rear that I needed. And then the speaking engagements started happening little by little. We're going month to month now, to be totally honest. The Lord's providing, but only a month at a time. But the key is he is providing. And I think that's the key. Common sense is important. You're never going to go against what the church teaches. You're never going to go against something that would violate your state in life, right? I mean, if I would just quit and not be able to support my family, that's wrong. So it's tricky, but it's a matter of common sense and little logic sometimes.
Yeah, we really admire the saints of the past, and by the crazy things they did, the great faith and the step of faith and the leap of faith in that. But during their time period, a lot of people thought they were completely nuts, doing something pretty stupid. But there is a fine line there. And, I let me just give you a couple of quick examples here. We'll move on. But I know people that started a Christian not credit card, but a greeting card business a while back. And they put the money into it, and it went nowhere. I mean, they lost everything. I know another group that started a Christian coffee shop. It cost them $180,000. And I know it was $180,000 because the people that owned it approached me first. I said, I don't have no $180,000. You're talking to the wrong guy. And that folded. I mean, 6 months, it went down really fast. But all these people heard the voice of God speaking to them clearly. So, it's like, I guess it does take discernment, but you got to be careful. And it is, there's no guarantees either.
No. And Joe, just let me say quickly, I know you had my friend Terry Barber on your show not too long ago. Terry was one of the guys I talked to, and he said, Gary, you have to find a way. If you want to do this full time, you somehow have to find a way to make some sort of an income. You might go month to month, but you have to do something. And he told me he knew people that lost their houses. And he said, Terry's a real estate guy. And he said, if I had to, I'd go back to selling real estate if I needed to support my family. And that really registered with me. And I realized that I need some way to earn a living. But again, we go month to month, but I've been saying that for 3 years. So there is involved, but there's some sort of logic too.
Well, that's the Lord said, give us this day our daily bread.
Oh, yeah.
Right? He didn't say, I'm going to give you a month's supply of bread at a time. He said, and when the Israelites were in the desert, they were only allowed to scoop up manna for one day. One day. The Lord would punish them if they took more than 1 day's supplies. Every day they had to rely on God's providence. When you did those early speaking engagements, how'd you get the first one? How'd you get the first one off the ground?
I spoke at my local parish, and I just sent around a lot of letters, got rejected a lot. And this is, that was tricky because in this whole discernment process, you're trying to figure out, well, Lord, what are you trying to tell me? I'm getting rejected. But then, Joe, one of the most important things that I have learned was to look at some of the saints, to look at what happened with Mother Angelica in EWTN. When I read her biography, I was shocked about how many times she was rejected or things didn't work out. One time she did a speaking engagement. She got 0 donations and she got food poisoning. And she was really upset about it. And then
food poisoning on top of it. Huh?
But it makes me realize that just because some things don't work out, it doesn't mean the Lord's saying, no, you've got to look at the big picture. You've got to look at the confirmation that you're getting. You got to look at what people are telling you about your work. And that's what I'm getting. I'm not getting the guaranteed 6-figure salary, which I'd like that if it were up to me, but that's not the confirmation that the Lord's giving me. He's making me trust him. And it's great because I'm finally learning what it means to trust. Like you said, give us this day our daily bread. When I pray those words, brother, I mean them now.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you think some people give up too quickly on their dreams with evangelizing or whatever?
I do.
When you think about what it takes to get a normal business off the ground, the incredible amount of hours you have to put into to get your own business going, and then then I'll talk to people that are in ministry work or at least attempted ministry work, and they'll say, well, I tried this, it didn't work out, so it wasn't the Lord's will. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, where's your perseverance and stick to it and all that kind of thing. So it's not going to be easy, but nothing's easy, right?
No. And that's, Joe, the one thing that hit me, and I've had some ups and downs. A couple of years ago, I was completely out of money, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And my main thing that I always want to be able to say to the Lord when I face him, when I'm judged, and we go back to that, but it's important. I want to tell him I really did try my best with this. And I was at the brink of just about going under. And what I did was do something that really killed me. I did 2 things. Number one, I asked for donations for people who listen to my radio show. And I told them, here's what I made. Here's what I need. Can you guys help me? And it goes against my nature to do that. But I remembered I was doing it for the Lord. They came through. And the other thing I did was I went around to some parishes. I mailed my books. I mailed letters to some local parishes. And I did the thing that I absolutely hated doing. I followed up with a phone call. And, it's not easy to do that because you could get rejected. But I got a few extra speaking engagements, got another month or so, and then some other things started to gel. And that was the key. As long as I can still do something, then I'm not ready to quit. I'm not going to quit. But I'll be defeated. If the Lord wants me to move on, he's going to make it so that I can't pay my bills and I have to move on. Mm-hmm. But I've learned that I'm not going to quit on them because this is too important. And that's what I've learned from this process.
All right. Hey, another question on evangelization. Is church doing everything it can, do you think? I know that right now, today, 75% of Catholics didn't go to Mass. So what's your thoughts on that? Now, you're an evangelist. You're a lay evangelist, right. So you're not a priest. You're not clergy.
Right.
You're not connected with the church in a capacity like you're being paid. Right. You're doing this strictly on your own.
Right.
I give you a lot of credit. I mean, that's fantastic. And there's a lot of people like you out there. But what's your opinion now? I mean, I think we get more, to be honest with you, from evangelists like yourselves than we do a lot of times from what the church programs are.
I've had several priests tell me that I mean, I couldn't believe this, but they said, you actually have more credibility than I do because you're coming in with no connection to the church. You're a lay person, I'm a lay person, and people tend to listen to someone like me. Not that the church isn't doing great things. I think the church is getting a lot better, but my pastor, my deacons, they can only do so much, especially if the people aren't in church. You're not going to reach them. Mm-hmm. But through the miracle of technology, the internet, and like you guys, I'm just trying a number of different things, internet radio, some YouTube videos, whatever I can do, live talks, to get the word out there. And people realize it. My message is registering with people, praise God. And the Lord is using a knucklehead like me to get his message out there. It's an honor.
Great. In a way, we are kind of like you, too. We started this about a year ago, roughly, maybe a little longer. It's been a lot of trial and error. You should have seen the early shows. Oh, my God. I just pray to God they never surfaced anywhere. They were so horrible. But, we've been at this for a while. We're getting better. Kent's been doing a fantastic job.
Oh, it looks great. Your show looks great.
But, we're like you. Now, we haven't made a penny at this, so we're trying now, but it does cost money. So we're trying to get to the point where we got to start bringing in a little bit of income here to make this thing click. But, hey, Ken, how is the chat room? Does anybody have a question?
We got a big chat room, just a lot of listening. I think they're just enjoying the show right now. So, yeah.
And just to remind everybody that we can get a call. What's that phone number again? If somebody wants to call in,
It's 440-536-3650. Or you can go on Skype Fiat_ministry to call in.
Yeah, so you could call on Skype or just from your cell phone. You can call in on that first phone number there. So it'd be nice if we got a call into this thing. Before we switch gears, because I want to get into your whole expertise, which is on worry and everything. Well, why don't we do that now? Let's just move right into you've written 3 books, and you're an expert on worry and anxiety. And as if, that's an epidemic today.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Worry, anxiety. But when you look at the world today, Gary, a 6.1 earthquake just struck near San Francisco. Chile had an earthquake. Iceland had a volcano eruption. There's flooding in Washington, Pennsylvania, and the worst drought in California maybe in the history. So there's a lot to be stressed out about. Plus, you got this Islamic State, this ISIS. They were threatening to blow up the entire city of Chicago. Don't you think some worry is justified here?
It's funny, and I still think it's hysterical that I am an expert on overcoming anxiety, someone who was incredibly anxious, but it's an example of how the Lord can use us. He can use our weaknesses sometimes to reach out to other people. I would say this, Joe, that fear is justified sometimes, but what we do with that fear can be completely different. We can either worry, which is useless, or we can do something proactive. We can pray, or we can take certain steps to try to combat that fear. I think a lot of times fear is something that can motivate us, but worry is just useless wasting of time. Worry is different than fear. Worry is wasting our time and not trusting in the Lord. And that's what I've learned. My message is a great one because it's so simple. Jesus Christ is the answer. I can honestly tell you, though, now as someone who lives month to month and goes full-time as a Catholic evangelist, I don't find myself worrying anymore. And the Lord has helped me. The secret is I need to stick with him. I need that personal relationship with him. And every day I've got to make that conscious decision to move away from worry and to turn to him. And as I tell many people when I open up my talks, always people look at me like I have 2 heads, but I say anxiety can be a great blessing because in my case, and in so many other cases, it's that knock on the door, the Lord standing at our doorstep, wanting to invite himself in, allowing us, I should say, to invite him in. He's not going to force his way in, but if we turn to him when we're afraid, that's the beginning of that relationship. And he wants to do that. He wants to help us like that.
Well, Ken, did you say there's a call?
Yeah, there was a call. Just call right back.
So we're still working on that. All right.
Let me just, I think they're...
That's all right. This is something brand new. We've never officially been able to use it yet.
Okay.
Well, okay. Well, if they call back, let them call back. Yeah. But so that'd be kind of interesting. Gary, when you're talking about worry and anxiety, where do you start bringing in medication and pills and?
I'm glad you brought that up, Joe, because I always stress to people that there is, and I deal with, I don't have a psychology background, I'm not a therapist, but I deal with a lot of Catholic therapists, mainly because I want to make sure that my message is an accurate one. I don't want to be overstepping my boundaries. And what I've been told and what I've experienced in my own life is that anxiety can have a biological component, and sometimes medication is necessary. What I've been told from Catholic therapists is that we should try all the techniques that I'm mentioning, close relationship with the Lord, prayer, reading the Bible, receiving the sacraments. And if there is still a problem, don't hesitate to seek professional help. I was a guy who was on anxiety medicine. Didn't help me. It just made me completely apathetic. I had at least 5 trips to the emergency room when I was younger with panic attacks. So I've been there. My anxiety is really a stress-related anxiety. It's not a clinical condition. But so many people out there are just like me. They are struggling. And they don't need medicine, but yet they need a close relationship.
Absolutely.
Oh,
I hear the phone ringing.
Hello? Yep, we got a call. You hear?
Who is this?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hello?
What's your name? Yeah, what's your name?
Can you hear?
Hello?
Hello? Oh.
Can she hear us?
Not
yet? Okay.
No.
Well, tell her to call back.
I don't.
It's just a work in progress.
Sorry.
Okay. The whole idea then, if I'm suffering from anxiety and worry, and 99% of the people are out there are, first of all, are women more warriors than men? That's the first question. If you ask me, I'll give you a point blank answer to that one. But I want to hear what the expert has to say. And secondly, who worries more, men or women? And secondly, is what's the technique here? What's the technique if I'm a chronic worrier? And let's face it, a lot of money problems. There's a lot of things that the family, the parents, there's a lot of issues in life that we're concerned about. What's the general advice then to handle that?
To answer your question, Joe, it's been my experience that women admit that they worry more than men do. So, men don't want to admit they worry. So I run into more women who admit that they're worriers, but I think a lot of guys worry because we have a lot of pressure on us. Yeah. A lot of men are really worrying in secret, which I think makes it worse. To answer your other question, literally the secret is to have a personal relationship with the Lord. And I tell people this, and my latest book, From Fear to Faith, is a step-by-step guide to overcoming worry. This is a book that people have been asking me to write. Essentially, what I've learned, and this is the other thing, as being someone who speaks about overcoming anxiety, the Lord's been putting me through the ringer. So I've told him, Lord, I don't need any more material, but he's given me a lot of stuff. But it's good because I can legitimately say, between my wife and I, we've had about 3 or 4 emergency room visits in the past year or so, all kinds of issues, money problems. But it gives me the chance to go out and talk about these things and have some kind of credibility. What I tell people and what I've learned in my life is that if we're trying to overcome anxiety, if we're trying to stop worrying, my advice is to stop trying so hard to stop worrying. Because we can't do it by ourselves. Most of us can't do it by ourselves. There's a lot of, if you Google self-help approaches to overcoming anxiety, it always starts with me. Don't worry about the future, take control. Well, I can't do that. I'm an anxious person. I'm weak, but that's okay because St. Paul was weak too. But St. Paul got it, and he said, when I am weak, then I am strong. He knew that he needed the Lord. And that is what I have found. Instead of trying to stop worrying, every day I open my Bible. I let the Lord speak to me. I speak to the Lord. I receive communion daily. I've got to go to Mass every day because I want to be with the Lord. And the more I do that, the more I pray, the more I get to know him, the more I get to know the Blessed Mother, guess what? The peace floods my heart and the worry starts to go away. But when I take my eyes off of the Lord, like Peter did walking on water, he was doing okay. But when he started looking at the waves crashing around him, then he began to sink. And I think that's what we all can do. So the easiest thing to say is focus on the Lord, but at the same time, do what you can. And that's the key. You talked about that fine line earlier. It applies to anxiety. If I'm starting to be concerned that my company is not doing well, financially, my company's struggling, they're going to be having layoffs, well, I need to update my resume and maybe look for a job. If I'm not feeling well, I need to go to the doctor. There are things I can do. There are things I can control. But those of us who tend to be anxious, we want to control things we can't control. And that's the secret. Do my job and let God do his job, which is a challenge for some of us because we like to control things. But that's what I found to be the secret. And as long as I keep that focus, I'm all right.
Yeah, when you think about worry, I mean, when you think about this life, it's just so crazy because you never get out of it alive, as they say. So it's going to end in death. Your life ends in death. So maybe just the thought that knowing that we're all going to die, I think is a little bit of a calming factor there because why get too stressed or bent out of shape about things? It's just temporary.
Right.
Right. That's where our faith comes in. What about humor? You think humor is important to?
Yes, absolutely. I do. And I like to laugh at myself, too. I always tell all kinds of crazy stories about the time I tried to clean my gutters out, and I was too afraid to go out on the balcony, so I let my wife do it. I mean, imagine how pathetic is that? You talk about a coward. She had a good time. She saved the day. But, yeah, I think you got to laugh at yourself sometimes. I'm not afraid to look a little silly because I have worried about some crazy things, most of which never happened. And you know, you've got to have a little, and the Lord has a sense of humor. I'm sure you found with your ministry too.
Your ministry, life, everything. Yeah,
Right.
I've got my life has been so weird too. I mean, I've got stories that, just like everybody else. It's like it's a crazy life, and
Joe, we're gonna try.
Yeah, but humor. What's that, Kent?
Oh no, go ahead. Yeah,
I was going to say humor is important, and then also maybe I was thinking, we always blow things out of proportion.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a part of what Satan does. He tries to make things always worse, always seem worse than they really are. I really think that. And one other thing too, Gary, I wanted to bring. I don't know if anybody ever thought about this, but the very fact that we exist is just such. It's just such an interesting, mind-boggling thought, that God created you, that he created me. If we didn't exist, we wouldn't know we didn't exist. And the very fact that we are here right now at this time, but we actually exist.
Yeah.
If you just spend 5 minutes thinking about that, it's just mind-boggling. And I think that also has a calming effect, too. We're in this for the long run. We're in this for eternity.
That's right.
Not just some problem that's here, temporary problem that's hitting us right now. And we just need to chill out.
And Joe, that's hard to see because from an early age, we're trained to let our senses, we process the world around us by our senses. So if I can see things, I can feel things, I can look around me. That's how I experience the world. But eternity is a different story. I mean, it's hard for me to picture heaven because I've never been there. So that requires, I think, that constant, that relationship with the Lord every day to speak to him. And I just want to say one other thing. It's probably going to be a bit of a mood killer for the show, but you talk about existing. And I think about this and I share this with people sometimes. If God doesn't will my very next breath, I'm going to cease to exist. Now, I hope that doesn't happen. That would really make for an awkward show if I dropped dead in the middle of the program. You know what I mean? But it's true. He's in charge. He's caring for us. He's in charge. He's watching over us. He's not surprised by anything that happens in our lives, even though we might be.
And a lot of these problems are what? Character building? Are they to build up our glory in heaven? I think to some extent that's a good way of looking at it too, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I'm not diminishing anybody's suffering, but here's what's incredible to me. I meet a lot of people who share their stories. Do you know that some of the most peaceful people that I have met are people who are struggling with stage 4 cancer? It's absolutely incredible because so many of them have accepted whatever's happening to them, and they're peaceful. I've met several people in my talks that say, I've got stage 4 cancer. I don't know how much longer I have, but I'm okay. That blows me away when I meet people like that, that they could be that calm. But that's what happens. That's with that supernatural peace that the Lord wants to give us. Our problems don't have to go away for us to feel that peace, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
Right.
She's been
Go
trying
ahead,
to
Ken.
call, she's been trying. I'm going to try to see if we can get a hold of the caller one more time. She's been.
Call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system.
No, forget it.
6, 7, 8, 2.
Yeah, you better turn it off. Okay. Well, that's all right. They can try again. And I'll tell you what, if she does come on, just or somebody calls, just put them right on immediately.
Okay.
And tell you what, we're going to take a little break. We come back. Gary, let's talk about the 33-day consecration to Mary. And that's a 33-day retreat that's just going to lift you sky high spiritually. And we'll remind everybody that you're available for speaking engagements. And, you've got some awesome topics. If anybody wants to have you speaking at one of their venues, get a hold of your website. Let's make sure we put his website back up there again when we come back, Kent. And,
sure.
And we'll be right back. We'll talk about Mary here coming up.
Hi, it's Ken from the Fiat Ministry Network. I want to let everybody know about our partnership with Amazon.com. The Fiat Ministry Network is an official affiliate of Amazon.com. Any purchase that you make through the Fiat Ministry Network.tv website will go to the ministry. looking to donate to the ministry, this is a great way to donate. You get an item, and also a small portion of that price will go to the ministry. So go to fiatministrynetwork.tv, click on the logos or any text talking about Amazon, and a small portion of your purchase will go to the ministry. So again, go to fiatministrynetwork.tv and purchase anything from Amazon that you'd like and help us. And we appreciate any purchases from you, and God bless you, and we'll get back to the show. And we're back.
All right. Okay, thanks, Kent. Yeah, if somebody has a question, you can do it in the chat room. And if you want to be adventurous and try and give us a call, we have the phone number right there on the website, too, so you can give us a call, and we'll put you on and talk to you that way as well. One last thing before we get to the 33-day consecration. There was this incident with Richard Dawkins. He's a very famous atheist. I get a kick out of it because his Twitter account has over a million followers, it says. Can you believe that? This guy's an atheist. He's got over 1 million followers. That tells you what kind of state of crisis we're in today. But anyhow, you made a statement about suffering, that if a baby has Down's syndrome, that the baby should be automatically aborted. No questions asked. And, of course, that caused a firestorm. And his reasoning, which now I don't know I forget if he's a physicist or what exactly Richard Dawkins is, but he's certainly not a theologian. And just because you're smart in one area, you can be very dumb in another area like theology when it comes to God and stuff. So he's just not with it when it comes to God. But his reasoning was, well, we don't want a person to suffer, But here's a couple of things on that that struck me as being odd. He's an atheist who believes in evolution. And isn't the evolutionary process one where we have defects in the DNA that kind of created new creatures? You know how we all evolved. We evolved from a little ant to another species and stuff. But from what I understand, it's through problems or mutations or exceptions. And when you get to Down syndrome, the chromosome, the 21st chromosome, you have an extra one. And I only know this because we've done a show on it. And we did a show on trisomy 18, which is the 18th chromosome. You have an extra chromosome in there. So in other words, these are the types of things, according to the evolutionists, that would help to foster new creations or whatever. But yet, to him, this person, because in his opinion, they're going to be living a life that's going to be very difficult, just kill them, So, but the evolutionists, when you look back, they think trees were former humans, or animals and stuff were former humans, and that's why they can't kill animals and things like this. So it's just very strange. It's very strange to me, that whole concept. And one of these days we're going to do a show on evolution, because I don't know if you're an evolution creationist, but I'll tell you, the more I research it, I can't find, there is like zero evidence to support evolution. But that's a whole other topic. But the thing is, we're talking about problems and suffering and things like that, and that's part of life, and that we have to deal with and overcome. And and it wouldn't be easy having a child with Down syndrome. Absolutely not. But the Lord will help you get it through. I know a woman who has a Down syndrome, and she loves the kid more than anything. Right. It's her favorite child. So, hey, can we shift gears here and let's talk about consecrating ourselves to Mary? And you have something on your website there. I believe it's 33 days, right? 33-day retreat. And Ken, can we get that on there? His website and Gary's website. Can you give us a little background information on that? The first question everybody's going to ask you is, why consecrate to Mary? Why don't we just consecrate to Jesus?
Well, you know what? I'm glad you said that. And that's what many people do say. But it actually, the consecration we do is to Jesus. It's total consecration to Jesus through Mary. So what we're doing is, this is the devotion that was popularized by St. Louis de Montfort in the 18th century, essentially to make it really simple, what we're doing. And I do this on my nightly radio show. This is the 4th year that I've done this. We've taken over 2,000 people, myself included, through this total consecration. We're giving Mary permission to work in our lives to help us to become more like Christ. And who doesn't need help with that? You know, Joe, this is one of the incredible things. I always tell people, if they think they don't need it, are you as close to Jesus as you can be? Do you ever sin? Well, if you ever sin, well, there's obviously a problem there. We all sin. We can all use a little bit of help. Mary can help us. Mary can help us. And the way she works is that she works behind the scenes. And this is what I found in my own life. Once I gave her permission to take over, to help me grow closer to Christ, all of a sudden, I wanted to start going to Mass more. I wanted to start spending more time in Eucharistic adoration. I wanted to read the Bible more. I wanted to go to confession more. I wanted to become closer to Jesus. It was just happening because Mary was helping me. That's the beauty of this devotion. Several popes have recommended it. St. John Paul II, this was a big turning point in his life. I think the problem with some individuals is this aspect of, by growing closer to Mary, is that going to take me away from Jesus? And St. Louis de Montfort, who popularized this, said, and I love this, he said, if any Marian devotion brings you away from Jesus instead of closer to him, it's from the devil and you should get rid of it. So he understood that any Marian devotion, any devotion to Mary, is designed to bring us closer to Christ. That's what this is all about. And for the past 3 years, and this is the 4th year I'll be leading it, we start next week, I lead people on my nightly internet radio show through this. We read the prayers. There's a book that we use. It's not that complicated. And at the end of the 33 days, we consecrate our lives to Jesus through Mary, or we renew it. Like in my case, I've already done it, so I renew it every year. And it's a life changer. This is what I did before I had the guts to work full-time for the Lord. And, you know, we talked about my layoff. After the layoff, I still had a choice to make. I could have gone back into project management, but for some reason I got the courage to go forward and keep working for the Lord full-time. I attribute that to my mom, Mary. I really do.
Wow. So what can we expect at the end of the 33 days from this?
You know, at the end of, and I do have more information on my website, there's a short video and all, but essentially what happens is the end of 33 days, on the surface, nothing changes. Your life is still the same. You're a husband, you're a father, you go to work, you do the same thing you always did, but internally, everything changes. Mary waits for us to give her permission to work with us, to get us closer to Christ. The changes that happen are subtle. They really are. They happen almost transparently, and you find yourself being drawn even not only more close to Mary, but you find yourself being drawn more closer to Jesus. But externally, nothing looks different, but internally, I'm telling you, everything really seems to change.
Okay, so just so I understand, you sign up for this, then every day you go to your blog talk radio program.
Right.
And what do you do then? What would, if I signed up for your program, what would I expect to hear from your radio program or whatever?
There's a series of prayers that we pray and some meditations, and I expand the meditations a little bit, and that's what happens every day. It's a process that helps us to get to know ourselves, to get to know our sinfulness, which can be painful sometimes, but we got to recognize that. We get to know Christ better, and we get to know Mary better. And this is a prescribed method for doing this, and it's based on what St. Louis de Montfort recommended. We go through this process 30 minutes each day. That's all it takes. And it just increases our awareness of what we're about to do. One thing I do want to point out, once we make this total consecration, we don't take any permanent vows, any promises. We can simply rescind it with an act of the will. So if for whatever reason somebody's not pleased with it, doesn't feel right about it, they can say, Lord, I don't think this is right for me. There's no sin involved. There really is nothing to lose. And the great thing about the way this internet radio show that I have it works is the podcast can be downloaded so they don't have to listen at a certain time. It's totally free of charge. We even have an apostolate who gives away the books for free. So there's absolutely no cost at all. So it's really a great deal.
Okay, so they got to go to your website then to sign up.
Right.
And that's Following the Truth?
followingthetruth.com. And all I ask for is an email address just so that I can be able to correspond with the people. And I lead people through this. I get emails. I elaborate on some points. We're in this together for 33 days. And it can be grueling because every year, you probably are aware of this, when you start to do something that's going to bring people closer to Christ, the evil one's going to attack you. First year, I got shingles. The second year, my wife had to go to the ER. Every year, it's something. I'm used to it by now, but you get used to it. You get ready for it.
So I have something here when it talks about the power of Mary and with Satan and how much he absolutely, because of his proudfulness, suffers infinitely more in being vanquished and punished by a lowly and humble servant of God. For her humility humiliates him more than the power of God. Yeah. It's not so bad being beaten by the infinite God, but by a woman, Satan is defeated. We have that picture of her. We have that statue of her. She's on the snake, the serpent, and crushing its head. As a matter of fact, that's from the Bible too. In Genesis, it says, "I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your race and her race, and she will crush your head, and you will lie and wait for her heel." And something else I found very interesting in this series was that Saint Louis de Montfort is his name.
Yes, right, exactly.
He was saying that in the end times, in the later days, in the end times, which we're probably in right now, Mary is really going to become well known,
right?
And the power that she had and the graces given to her from God, because she was so humble.
Right.
And if we knew all of this in the beginning of the early church, that may have extracted from Jesus. Mm-hmm. But at this point, we have a better understanding. We know how God has blessed her.
Right.
And so that when you do this retreat, she is walking you through this so that you come closer to Jesus. And it sounds like it's extremely powerful. I think I'm going to be signing up for it.
Awesome.
What I'm going to be doing.
It's a life changer, Joe, really. I mean, it's the greatest thing I've ever done. I'm working full time for the Lord. I mean, I can't do this by myself. This is the incredible work that Our Lady can do. And I just love spending time with Jesus in adoration. I know him personally now. I never knew him personally before. So I give all the credit to Our Lady.
And really, this whole consecration thing is to bring us closer to Jesus, as we've said. If anything pulls you away from Jesus, then that's not really from the Lord.
Right.
But how many people do you? It's just a matter of taking the time, saying you're going to do it for 33 days, mm-hmm. making the commitment, and then really having rewarded with all those graces and everything. I think people got to just wake up and realize how important it is that we start spending more time coming closer to Christ and growing spiritually. I mean, it's the most important thing.
Yeah, yeah. And one thing too, Joe, and I always tell people this, if you miss 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 days, don't quit. St. Louis de Montfort came up with this 33-day period. He thinks that's a good approach, but he says for some people you can use less time, some people you can use more. So if for some reason, I encourage people to do the 33 days if you can, but if you miss a day, keep going. Here's what's going to happen, and this happens all the time. When you start doing something like this, you miss a day, and then the evil one loves this because he gets in and he says, you might as well quit now. And that's what he wants to do. He wants to make us quit. He doesn't want us to get closer to Christ. So if you miss a day or 2 or 3, don't panic. Keep going. You're still going to be able to do this consecration.
So you have a strong devotion to Mary. Let me just ask you a question here on some of the apparitions that are going on. Obviously, Fatima's been approved. Do you have any thoughts on Medjugorje and some of the other apparitions, or some of these statues that have oil or tears coming from their eyes and stuff like that?
Joe, personally, I'm an approved apparition guy. I stick with the approved apparitions. I know people who believe in some of the other ones, and that might work for them, but there is such a rich treasure of approved apparitions. If we listen to what our Blessed Mother has to say, just in those apparitions alone, that's always been my focus. There's a great message there.
Mm-hmm. All right. Hey, Ken, did we ever? We never got that phone call in, did we?
We've been getting the call is going somehow to my cell phone for some reason, but please try to call back. Try again. I think I fixed that. So try to call back if anyone wants to call back at the end of the ask any final questions.
Yeah, is there a final question from the chat room from somebody, or
they're mostly just listening right now, so they're enjoying the show.
Okay.
So,
well, let's just one last time promote that 33 days. Do you have his website? You could show it again, Kent. And what if you could give some advice to someone who wants to become a full-time evangelist, Gary? What would that advice be?
Pray a lot, stay close to the Lord, ask Him to guide you, and be patient. I think that's the big key. I waited for several years before the time was right, and it's painful, but He's going to lead you. And I think Joe, sometimes He asks us to do things that we roll out.
Hello.
You know, I didn't think this was a possibility.
Hello.
Hello. Can you?
That would be my advice.
Can you hear us?
Yes. Hello, caller. Go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hello.
Caller. Yes. Go ahead. You're on.
Can you hear us?
Hello.
Yes.
Yes. Go ahead.
Hello. Can you hear
Yes.
us?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I can hear you. Nope. You can't hear us?
Hello. Is this the Fiat Ministry?
Yeah. Yes. You have a question?
Oh, yes. Well, yes, I do. I finally got through. I am the lady that's been calling and calling.
Sorry about that.
Oh, perseverance pays off.
And I just wanted to say that I think you guys are doing a great job.
Thank you.
And my question real quick is, because I know your show's coming to an end, I know you touched on the worry, and I wanted to just ask if you could, you talked about what we can do for ourselves about worry. What advice do you have to tell someone else when they're going through something traumatic, like to say, oh, well, don't worry, just pray about it, everything will be okay? Sometimes it sounds a little shallow. What advice can you give of how to talk to someone or what to say to someone?
Okay, thanks a lot. It's great.
Thank you, yeah.
Thank you.
That's an excellent question. That really is. And I think sometimes we do have to be very sensitive about that. I will always say, I'll pray for you if somebody's going through a tough time. And I do. I pray for people all the time. I'm always on Facebook, Twitter, wherever I can, asking for if anybody needs me to pray for them. But I would just suggest that you go slowly. Sometimes if you tell somebody, stop, just don't worry, you need to trust more, I think that can do more harm than good, depending on the situation. I often will say, let me pray for you. Just ask the Lord to help you. Ask the Lord to help you to not worry. You can tell a person that. But it can be a sensitive subject. The secret is for them to get closer to the Lord, but you don't really always want to say that, because I think you can do more harm than good.
Yeah, boy, that is tough. Yeah,
It's tough.
Sometimes when somebody has a really serious problem, it does sound very shallow. Well, I'll pray for you, or the Lord, the Lord will help you, or something. It does seem kind of shallow in that respect, but
it really is true, Joe. That's the thing, and or you can maybe relate a story that happened in your life. I remember one time when this was happening to me, or I thought I was going to die, and I prayed, and the Lord got me through it. Going back and sharing a personal story is always a good approach.
Yeah, that's usually the best.
Yeah.
Kent, something from the chat room? Go ahead.
There's Tim has a question. I just want to comment on humility and with the ministry, relating the materials and prayer support and how that contributes to the whole concept of worry and reply to God's providence. And he says thanks. So do you have a kind of anything to go with that?
Yeah, that's a great point. Humility is key to, although it might not seem like it, trusting in God's providence. In order to do that, it's critical that we are humble and realize that we're not in control. And Joe, when earlier you talked about give us this day our daily bread. When I got to do that, when I got to hit my knees and acknowledge that I can't get myself out of a lot of these situations. That's humility. That makes me realize that I'm not God and that he's almighty and I'm not. As silly as that sounds, when I was getting a paycheck every week, I forgot about that because I thought, well, I could trust God because I had money in the bank and I got my paycheck every week. Then when that was taken away, then I really learned what it meant. And I think I'm still learning this, learned what it meant to really trust, understanding that I can't do everything and I really need to depend on his providence.
Yeah. That is amazing. And every day you are, like you said, it's humility, but it's trusting in the Lord. And it's not just somebody saying they trust in the Lord. I mean, I have so much more respect for a person who is in the fire like yourself and has to go day to day trusting in the Lord. You're living it, and you're reaping the benefits, the graces from that. It's just too easy for someone who's got money in the bank and that to say that, oh, yeah, well, I trust in the Lord every day. Well, you do. But if you're going to be an evangelist, I think that's the route. Yeah. And it's not an easy route. But I don't think Jesus ever said it would be easy.
No.
I don't remember that being in the Bible. And that's why so few people actually choose to do it.
Right.
Because it's not easy.
But he gives you when he gives you his grace, the peace is there. And that's the incredible thing. Sometimes my wife and I will talk about this and we'll say, well, we are peaceful, but we better not think too much about this because this is crazy what we're doing. But it's working,
Well, Gary, we're going to wrap up here with this, with that. But I want to thank you again for coming on. You've got 3 books, your website. Maybe we can show this website one last time, people to go to it, call you for speaking engagements. You're full-time evangelist, stepping out in faith now for 10, 12 years, it sounds like. So, God bless you. God bless your ministry. Thanks again for coming on. I mean, it's been a great show, and I really enjoyed it a lot. So,
my pleasure. Thank you for having me on. You guys are doing great work. God bless you both.
Thank you very much. God bless
Thanks
you,
a lot.
Gary.
God bless. Thanks.
God bless.
Okay, I'm gonna jump over to us, and we have a great a bunch of guests coming up next week. Basically, writing a book about all the beasts in the Bible. That's August 31st, and
that's next week, right?
That's next week.
Is that next week?
Yeah, that's next week. Actually, his real name is John Scott, and he has like a kind of a I don't know, a title or whatever you call it as an author, but he uses that. And Molly McGovern, September 7th, is a Steubenville. She's down there as a sister, and she'll be speaking just on what she does, her lifestyle, and what she is doing down in Steubenville. And then Mike, I don't.
Aquilina.
Yeah, September 7th or 14th.
Aquilina, I think it is.
Yeah, Aquilina.
He's very well known.
Yeah.
So he'll be on. So that would be a great show.
Yeah.
And you know what else? We finally got a caller to come through, so that the technical part actually does work, sort of.
I tried. So thank you for everybody sticking in. Tim found the chat room. Thanks for popping in. Debbie coming in. All the when it's on popped in, and another guest. Everybody in the chat room, thank you very much for popping in. And again with Gary, thank you with him. And we will do this next week at the same
next
time.
Sunday, God willing.
Yes, and so yeah, we will see you next Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern, and for everybody, because it's internet, so anyone can watch this at their time, but 9 Eastern for us, and so we will let everybody have a great evening, and God bless for the rest of the week, and we will see you all next Sunday night. God bless.
Yeah, God bless.